You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Happy you could join me here today on this Total Wellness Tuesday, where the topic is back to Ayurveda and Ayurvedic medicine. So once a week, we're going through our Ayurvedic series, and what I want to do is really bring you the essence of Ayurveda, which is known as the science of life. If you understand Ayurveda, then you understand the basis of how to balance the body. And really, that's what we're missing right now in today's society. We're missing the way to balance everything in our life, whether it be stress or exercise or toxicity or emotion. It's a lack of balance, which is leading to all of this anxiety and overwhelm and depression and obsessive compulsive. All of these things tie back to a lack of balance within the body. And I think we can look at that in terms of overall health as well, overall being at the proper weight. All of these things help us to stay healthy, to stay happy in both mind and body. So what I'm trying to do over these Ayurvedic series once a week is just teach you a little bit more about your body and your body genetically, which is called your prakriti, your dosha, and then also your prakriti of where you're at today. So it's the difference between the genotype of who you are and your actual genetics and the phenotype of where you're at today. And that's actually a really big thing that's missing as well in Ayurvedic teachings today, not thousands of years ago, is trying to tell someone like, listen, this is your body type. Well, a lot of times we're doing these diagnoses and they're telling people what their body type is right now. And I agree with it. And a lot of times people are getting the Vata-based diagnosis, but they're not Vata truly. Here's the issue. And I spoke about this just, I believe it was 2 weeks ago on the exercise Ayurvedic series. Let's see if I can find that number on that. That was 944. So you can just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts. And you'll see every week, starting with episode 900, once a week, there's one show on Ayurveda. Well, on that show, I spoke about the imbalances within our culture and understanding that right now, if you are in a Western type developed, world, that continent or country that you live in, you are mostly go, go, go. You're told to work more, do more, accomplish more, be more, all of those things. Well, the movement is the Vata, right? And the ambition and the drive is the Pitta. So we have this predominance of Vata, which is always being on the go, which is essentially burning out the body. And then we have the Pitta, which leads to the more of the aggressiveness and all of those things. Well, eventually, though, those can burn us out, right? Because that ambition can burn out the Vata with all of that movement. And then we're left in a sluggish space where we just don't want to do anything because we're overwhelmed. So here's what I want to go over today, and it's understanding the resetting of what's called the autonomic nervous system. So I'm going through the de-stress protocol, my de-stress protocol that I wrote about in the rain barrel effect. So that's how we help people get well in my practice. So what does that mean? Well, using the de-stress protocol, you're helping people in 8 facets of their life. And the reason why we help people get well when they haven't gotten well before, even though they've met with certain specialists or whatever it might be, is that oftentimes we're kind of cherry picking what we want to help a person with, right? We're saying, okay, we're going to help this person with their digestion, okay, because they have some bloating and they have some gas and they have whatever it might be. Or this person has migraines, so we're going to work on vasodilation or vasoconstriction, or we're going to work on whatever's going on in terms of like a histamine maybe reacting, right? And then this person has some joint pain. Okay, so we're going to look at their joint pain and we're going to try to give them some type of natural anti-inflammatory. But the issue is we're not treating the whole person, right? The entire person. Because we know that all of the different systems within the body are connected. And if they're connected, it means that usually there's primary, secondary, and tertiary issues within the body. And if we don't correct them all at once, well, then we're only still treating the symptoms. So with the de-stress protocol, we're looking at each facet of helping an entire individual. We're looking at the diet, the exercise. we're looking at the stress, we're looking at the toxins, we're looking at the rest, we're looking at the emotions, we're looking at proper supplementation, and we're looking at success, so the success mindset of rewiring the brain to understand that you actually have to change as an individual in terms of your wiring, your programming, in order to make it to that next step in life. Because if you don't, and that's what I talk about on the Motivation and Mindset Mondays, is that you're always going to move back to where you were before. Meaning that if your thermostat is always set at 70 degrees, well, if the temperature outside starts to seep in and starts to get 72, 73, it will bring it back down to 70. Too cold, bring it back up to 70. Well, the same thing happens with our mindset. We start to get too successful, things start to go well for us, brings us right back down, right? Or if things start to get worse than we believe that we should have, we start to get better again. So you have to understand is that you need to change that thermostat. We'll talk about that on another Mindset and Motivation Monday. What we want to talk about today, though, is this, is that rest is important for balancing the body and mind, especially in this Vata-based society that we live in. But it's much more than sleep. We are going to focus on sleep today. We're going to talk about sleep today. But rest means the balance of activity. It means getting from the fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, moving into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, and that is the rest, relax, and rejuvenate. So by listening to the Cabral concept, what I'm trying to provide is a true holistic, WHOL, right? Holistic education where you will literally know more than most practitioners. And I don't say that in a negative way or mean way at all, but this is not taught in school and it is taught in books. It's just you need to read the wide variety. And what we have in our culture is that people just go all in on one thing to the detriment of the people they serve. So people go all in keto, all in CrossFit, or all in Primo, or all in carnivore, all in whatever it might be, and they can't see that there's a time and a place for other things as well. And so they're not open to other ideas. What you have to do is leave yourself open to other ideas. Even if you don't accept them in the moment, leave yourself open to it. Because you might get new information in a week or 2 months or 2 years that says, oh, now I know what that person was talking about. I get it. But if you don't have the framework, that's why I do really implore you, if possible, to go back and listen to the previous Cabral concepts, because each of them build off of the other. Now, none of them are getting too advanced where you can't understand them without the previous ones before that. That's not what it's meant to. But with 963 shows, which is today's episode 963, you're going to get a lot of back information on essentially functional medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, naturopathy, bioregulatory medicine, orthomolecular medicine, and Eastern-based philosophy. And that is essentially what we're teaching to our integrative health practitioners. We're teaching them how to use the entire de-stress protocol and all 7 branches of medicine or natural health that we're pulling from. So let's get right into it today. Now, I want to talk about sleep, but I'm also going to talk about resetting that parasympathetic nervous system with other activities as well. So rest, when we focus on sleep, we have to do that because without sleep, a 20-minute nap during the day or a little bit of a walk is not going to matter as much. So people that are more Vata-based, and if you don't know what a Vata body type is or ectomorph, if you don't know what the Pitta is or the Kapha is, please go back and listen to the previous episode, starting with episode 900. But just a quick overview would be, a Vata would be a person, or at least the current state they're in right now, where they lose weight without trying. It's the easiest way to think about the Vata frame, the Vata body type. I'm not talking about the mindset as much right now, okay? That does matter, but what I need you to do is focus also on the body, which the mind has a very large influence over. Okay, the Pitta has typically broader shoulders. They're able to put on muscle fairly easy. They can lose weight or gain weight. They're typically maybe medium height. They have more of a square type face. They have smaller features on the face. Typically, they have finer hair. And then the Kapha body type or the endomorph body type puts on weight much more easily, especially when they eat carbohydrates. So when we're looking at that, we can all say, well, the mental part of Vata is mind's always racing, anxiety, etc., right? That's more of the mindset. And then the Kapha mindset or endomorph mindset would be more of sluggishness, slowness, typically a more peaceful mindset though. But again, we're not in those types of societies that's typically what we see. That's why I had to go by more of the body in today's society rather than 6,000 years ago. And the Pitta would be more of the aggression, ambition, like super drive, all of those things, more like that type A. But let's go by the frame that I spoke about originally. So do understand this, that, there's these recommendations of sleep, and most people say 8 hours a night. And I can totally get behind that, right? It's like, how much water should you drink? Well, about half your body weight in pounds, half your body weight, and you take that in ounces. So if you weigh 160 pounds, well, you need about 80 ounces of water per day, and that's 10 glasses of water. Now, that can be in a smoothie, it could be an herbal tea, and ideally, most of that is just fresh spring water. Or if you do your best, and obviously you can get filtered water. So when we're looking at this, we have to understand is, yes, there's a basis point, right? Now, some people need more water, some people need less. I've answered that on a podcast before. So if you're interested in that answer, how much water you truly need, check that out. You can simply go back to previous podcasts. And one of those was, and this is probably an important one to check out, was episode 942, 7 Popular Health and Fitness Myths. So 742 will tell you the myth that everyone needs just basically half their body weight in water. Now, that's true for most people, but there's a wide variation. Just like 8 hours of sleep per night. Well, if you give the endomorph the 8 to 9 hours of sleep per night, they're already in more of an anabolic state. What does that mean? It means that they already put on mass more easily. They put on muscle, they put on body fat. So the endomorph or kapha should not and does not need that 8 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Now, every night, let's say, you missed sleep the night before, you're trying to get more the next night. Understood. I totally understand that. Here's the deal, though. That leads to more of that parasympathetic nervous system state, which they're typically more prone to being in. So what we look at that is the absolute juxtaposition, right? So, well, let's stick with the endomorph for a moment. How much sleep does the endomorph need? Well, in Ayurvedic teaching, they need somewhere between 6 and 7 hours. However, since no one just kind of like relaxes all day, meditates, maybe gardens for a little while, typically everyone needs 7 hours of sleep, okay? So I don't recommend less than 7 hours for anyone, and here's why. Endomorphs, or the kapha body type, are also more prone to type 2 diabetes. They found that those that got less than 7 hours of sleep had higher waking blood sugar levels. So I do recommend that you allow your body to get to bed at a decent time, and we will be talking about that, in order to properly metabolize and digest all of your food, to detoxify throughout the night, especially between 10 and 2, and then also allow your body to absorb, utilize blood glucose, and start to burn body fat instead. So 7 hours of sleep is what I would recommend for the kapha, between 7 and 8, okay? I still believe that most people should do well with 8 hours, so between 7 and 8 hours. Now with the endomorph, we just need to make sure that they're exercising, that they're expending energy during the day so that 7 to 8 hours is for rejuvenation, rebuilding. Please do go back and check out episode 944, which tells you how much exercise each body type needs. All right, so for the pitta, they need about 7 to 8 hours. And again, if we're going right in the middle for most body types, 8 hours. And the reason why I go 8 hours for pitta, even though in Ayurveda it's between 7 and 8, is because the pittas in today's modern society, they're able to really act out all of those ambition, drive, and type A personality. And the reason that they're able to do that is that we literally have, we have electricity, of course, right? So you can work as much as you want and as hard as you want for as long as you want. So that can tend that pitta to move more towards vata and begin to burn out. So I like 7 to 8 hours for the pitta. 7's the minimum, but I really like 8 hours. So I would say more like 7 for the kapha, 8 hours for pitta. And then for vata, we want to go more towards 8 to 9 hours. In Ayurvedic medicine, they say the same, 8 to 9. And that obviously still holds true today because we're in a vata-based society, right? So I would even say 8.5 to 9 hours for that vata-based body type. And that is absolutely what I try to get people to do in my practice. Is it easy to get that much sleep? Absolutely not. But you have to, understand and realize that that is required if you want to be able to continue to have the energy for your kids, have the energy for your work, all of your exercise, your extracurricular activities, because a vata body type is just more prone to being in that fight or flight, more prone to burning out, essentially. They really are. They're more prone to that HPA axis dysfunction and moving towards lower cortisol in the end because their reserves simply aren't as great. They start to metabolize and break down muscle tissue too quickly. They're already lean in the first place, which is why, putting someone who's already super lean in the first place on a keto-based diet is insane. Of course, they're going to feel more energy. They're going to feel a little bit of a buzz, and they even might feel a little bit more clarity. But what's happening is you're just pushing their cortisol levels higher. You're putting them in more of a survival-based state, which is going to be detrimental months later, not in the month that you're doing it. That's the problem. Everyone feels great in the moment, but the problem is, what about months later? And especially, what about a year later? And, yes, you're even leaner, but at the sake of what? At the sake of literally burning out. And so that's what I don't like to see. So we want to make sure that we're looking at our body type, and especially where we're at right now. Let's call that our phenotype, right? Or our Vakriti. We want to look at that, okay? And we want to say, I'm in a really stressful period of my life. Well, if you're in a really stressful period of your life, that means you're in more of that Vata-based state, and you do need more. You need more rest. You need more sleep in order to combat all of the stress that you do have in your life. That's very, very important. That's why 8 hours for most people is going to be that sweet spot, but we want the Vata body type, especially, to get more towards the 9, okay? And really no one, I would say, do less than 7 hours. The endomorph Kapha body type can absolutely get away with that. All right, so what I would like to talk about now is a little bit more of the rest cycle. So one thing we want to know, and I talked about this during the Ayurvedic Times of the Day. That was a show a couple hundred episodes ago. You can go back and tune into that. But you have to understand, too, that there are certain times of the day that are better for activity and certain times of the day that are better for rest. So what we want to do is, the most important thing that we can do is we can begin to ease into our day. The 6 to 10 o'clock hour, right? 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the Kapha stage of that day. And I'm not going to go through the entire cycle again, but simply means this. That is a good time for us to be waking, for sure, but we want to be easing into the day. So we don't want to go off just like a firecracker and, start with an exaggerated amount of stress. Ease into our day. By most people, 8 o'clock or so, 8:30, 9 o'clock, they can start getting into their real work, which at 10 o'clock is then the Pitta time of the day. 10 to 2 is a great time to get into more of that work. Same with 2 to 6, more of the Vata-based time, critical thinking, all of those things are great. And again, I went over that on the different times of the day. What I want to get back into, though, is the 6 to 10 hour, right? So we have 2 Ayurvedic cycles per day, a diurnal rhythm, where we have 2 parts of the day, essentially. Well, the second part of the day is 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and that is back to that Kapha time of the day. That means we should be winding down. If you are working late into the evening, I've spoken about this before on my podcast, where there are no night owls. There's no such thing as a night owl. There's only something called a dysfunctional diurnal rhythm. And people can say, yes, but I produce more cortisol at this time of the day. And I would say, I completely agree with you. And I lab test people like you all the time. That doesn't mean it's healthy. It actually means that it's a dysfunctional diurnal rhythm. And it's funny that we have scientists and PhDs trying to prove, no, some people actually produce more cortisol then. And the truth is, yes, they do, but that doesn't mean that that's normal. And you've heard me say before, if you put someone outside in the wilderness for 3 weeks, then they will reset that diurnal rhythm, because they are not nocturnal. They're certainly not going to be awake at night for 3 weeks straight. And then because they're going to have to wake up at 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. when that sun begins to rise. They're simply not going to sleep through that. There's no electronics at night. So the body will reset its natural diurnal rhythm. We are not nocturnal beings. If we were, we'd be able to see in the dark easily. Can't see in the dark. We can only see as humans in the dark, which is very, very limited. We're not night hunters. So all of that is just simply, again, nobody means any harm when they're saying these things, but it's simply not true. It's falsified information. And again, we can use any lab, we can use any study to try to back us up. And that's why I take every study, honestly, with a grain of salt if it does not make sense as to our normal human physiology and biology. Okay, so between that 6 and 10 hour, that's hopefully when we are, having our last meal, our dinner early. Ideally early. I know some of us eat a little bit later, but ideally you're eating that somewhere right around the 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock hour at the latest. You are allowing for proper digestion about 3 hours or so before you go to bed, and you're getting to bed before 10 p.m. Again, go back. I can't explain the entire sleep cycle on this podcast. We're talking about overall rest, but then that allows you then not to get that second wind of energy somewhere around 10 o'clock at night when the Pitta time of the day, the transformation begins in the body, where the body begins to essentially metabolize all of the food, all the things that have been going on during the day. Liver detoxification certainly takes place to a greater extent. So we look at that, very, very important. And then if you're someone, I just have to mention this, if you're someone that typically wakes up somewhere around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock up to 4 o'clock, oftentimes that can be some type of vata-based imbalance where you're getting a cortisol spike, where there's a lot of anxiety, can't turn the mind off. And it's very important to look at because thyroid production begins around midnight or so. Very, very important to look at the entire cycle. Cortisol begins to rise around 4 a.m., same with the transformation towards T4 and T3. But what we're looking at is the inability to get into that deeper parasympathetic nervous system state. So if you are not staying asleep during the night, now let's say you wake up for a second just to roll over because you're in and out of a sleep cycle, understandable, that could happen every 90 minutes. But if you're awake for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes or more, well, then you broke that sleep cycle and you're not in the deepest rejuvenating sleep that you can be. So it's very, very important that you do begin to reset that. I do hope you go back and you listen to my episode on that specifically on how to get essentially a better night's sleep. Really, really important. For one thing I can share with you right now that works extremely well in our practice is using something called the Deep Sleep Protocol. The Deep Sleep Protocol works on all the things that you may be missing across all facets. So again, I've done a podcast on that, the 3 reasons why people can't sleep. And it goes back to all sorts of things such as cortisol, lack of neurotransmitters, and turning off the sympathetic nervous system with certain electrolytes. So you can check that out. It's simply using things such as Adrenal Soothe at dinner, which is going to start to shut down cortisol production. It's going to use things such as magnesium, full spectrum magnesium at dinner, and then the natural calm and the liquid melatonin, which does not make you groggy the next day because it's in and out of your system faster, as well as the herbal formulas such as the passion flower and ashwagandha in the Best Rest formula as well. So, or the deep sleep support. So those are all great to get you there. And you can use the deep sleep protocol for, let's say, 3 weeks, 6 weeks or so. But eventually you want to begin to taper off that. Remember, I'm a huge proponent of supplements. Like, they work if you use functional medicine brands that have been third-party tested. But the goal is that then you're on more of a foundational-based program for the long run, something like I do, which is the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol, and adding in things like vitamin D for the winter, of course, especially when you're not getting a tan, maybe some omega-3 support, some balanced zinc for the winter. All of those are normal. But deep sleep protocol, that should be something that you do for, again, like I said, somewhere we have most people use it for about 4 weeks to 8 weeks maximum. We start to basically taper them off so they go to half the dosage, one at a time. And it allows them then to reset their sleep cycle because that's what you need to do. So resetting your sleep cycle is different than the foundational-based supplements. When you reset your sleep cycle, then you're able to allow your body to take over. You fix that diurnal rhythm. All of the people that were night owls can work their sleep back 15 minutes a night, especially using the deep sleep protocol. All of those things work. But again, if you're working with a practitioner, you can just speak with them about these concepts and they can help you as well. So the other thing I want to talk about, and I spoke about this, let's see if I can find that episode for you as well on stress, Ayurveda and stress. That was episode 950, is talking about reducing stress so that you can enjoy being in the parasympathetic nervous system much more. Now, I did a great episode with Dr. Belisa, and we went over how to use breathing to calm the sympathetic nervous system. Other things that work incredibly well to get into more of the parasympathetic nervous system are things I do, such as going for a walk at lunch. So again, I haven't made up any of these things. I really just have studied Ayurvedic medicine and especially the natural hygienist, bioregulatory medicine, although more towards the natural hygienist for things like doing things that calm the body. And that's because if I'm always on the go, then I'm going to burn out and I'm going to end up where I was when I was 17 years old, and I never want to go back there. So what I do is I like to work hard. I do. I work very, very hard. But at the same time, I do that in blocks. So for me, I just want to give you an example of my day. So I do wake up fairly early. I do wake up around the 5:30 a.m. hour. I do that on purpose. I wake up early so that I can ease into my day. So that allows me basically 1 hour before my family is up, so I can say goodbye to them before I do leave the house. But I can just not be in a rush. And what that allows me to do is no longer try to fight the clock. So now my cortisol levels can naturally begin to rise as they should in the morning between about 6 and 8 a.m. So I'm easing into the day. I can begin to make a smoothie. I've already done my morning movements that I've talked about before. My exercise is just to get my body flowing, move that lymphatic system. I've already had my day pre-planned because I've done my to-do list the night before. So I'm just going over my day. I'm getting excited for all that is going to transpire that day. My 2 daughters wake up, or I go in and I wake them up to get ready for school. And then make a smoothie for the whole family. And then I'm out the door after that. And typically I'm walking. Ideally, I'm walking to work if it's an okay day. And then when I get to my desk, I'm sitting down and I'm just preparing for the day. I'm not diving right into it right away. And I've gotten to my work early. I'm getting there somewhere around, let's say, 7 o'clock or 7:15. And then I'm easing into it until 7:30. And 7:30 is when I'm going to start to begin my work. Now, it's not insane work. I'm prepping for the day. Whether I'm seeing people in my concierge practice, I'm just prepping for it. And then it starts at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock starts my podcast recording. It might start a video, or it might start seeing people in my practice. And so that's what it is. And then I work until about noon. So I work 4 hours right there, okay? So it's a 4-hour block. And then what I do is I take lunch. And I'm with people all day, so I like to take a quiet lunch. I try to eat outside if possible. And I'm going for a walk. So I'm typically walking to lunch, I'm having lunch, and then I'm walking back from lunch, oftentimes putting on binaural beats. And those binaural beats are helping to calm my central nervous system, get me into more of a meditative state while I'm walking. I call it my walking meditation. And it's absolutely phenomenal. I love doing it. And then after that, when I'm back from lunch, and I do take a longer lunch, at least an hour, then I'm back and I work for my second half of the day. And that's typically 4 hours as well. Now, after that, I will go to the gym if it is one of my gym days. Then I will be home. I'll walk home. And again, a lot of walking, because the walking is me not on my phone. It's me breathing, walking, calming that sympathetic nervous system. And I get home and I'm, saying hello to my family. We're having dinner. I'm giving my girls a bath, reading them a book. And then, of course, that's chaos. I'm not saying that that's not. I can't pretend that it's not. And but it's a good time. I mean, they're kids. I understand that they're kids. I have a different mindset. I'm like, if they weren't like that, then maybe things would be off. And then, of course, my wife and I are just unwinding for the last hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours. If we get the kids into bed earlier at night, I'm getting to bed somewhere between around 9:30, 10 o'clock. I try to get to bed never later than 10 o'clock, although with my Vata Pitta mindset, well, really Pitta mindset, I would love to stay up all night. I honestly would. I would love to just stay up all night. I've talked about that in my book, but I sleep because I know that I need to. And so what that does is it actually gives me focused blocks of time. I only have in there 8 hours of really focused work, right? Those 4 hours are uninterrupted. A lot of people like to work for 50 minutes and then take 10 minutes off. I don't. I use that as focused work. I can write my 5 bullets basically for each podcast, and I can record a podcast every 30 minutes. So that's basically an hour and a half right there. And I might take 5 minutes between each one just to breathe. And then I can record videos. I can speak with my team. Like, there's a lot that can get done. So if you're not getting accomplished what you need, sometimes it's just that you're not giving yourself only blocks of time to do those things. But we'll save that for another show. So what I'm doing, though, is I'm holding myself back from allowing myself to burn out. So I don't know that you'll be as maybe rigid with your schedule, but for me, this is freedom. This is allowing me, and I talked about this yesterday. I do hope you tune into that Motivation and Mindset Monday. This is allowing me to be at my best without allowing myself to burn myself out. So I'm literally saving myself. That's what I'm doing by not letting myself go because I could work from 5:30 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night. There's no doubt about that. It's just my personality. It's who I am. It doesn't mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that it's bad. But I have to save myself from that because I don't have the true endomorphic body type. I will burn out. I do need my sleep even though I don't want it. I can't over-exercise while working that intensely. Like, it's all of those things. So what I'm trying to do for you is just get you to understand your body, set parameters, maybe take some downtime if you're able to midday, around lunchtime, let things just kind of cool down. And then I call it, I'm starting day 2. And then day 2 is my afternoon, and I get back into that. But remember, I've went outside, even if it's cold in Boston, I say I'm always outside walking, even in the winter, unless there's a foot of snow on the ground or it's raining sideways. Because I'm outside, even though it's not fresh air in the city, I'm breathing in. I have my headphones on, so I'm not disturbed by the world around me. I'm listening to binaural beats. I'm just, visualizing. I'm just, trying to give gratitude. I'm just trying to enjoy life. And then I have a quiet lunch. I'm enjoying the food that I'm eating, all of those specific things. So all of those things allow me to get more of what's called the rest, or more of the parasympathetic nervous system. Other things that are also phenomenal that you can do are self-massage. And I've spoken about these and other things as well, such as sauna is absolutely incredible as well for getting your body more into that parasympathetic nervous system. So check out how much exercise you should get, stress, all of those things on previous Cabral concepts. Hopefully today's show was helpful. I thank you so much for tuning in today. And if it was helpful, please do, as always, to share this show with anyone you believe it could help.
Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.